When it comes to the sale of military hardware, apparently, there's only the slightest separation between weapons of mass destruction and a crudité platter.
This photo was taken by Nikita Teryoshin. It shows a VIP reception at a Swedish stand at a defense fair in Kielce, Poland in 2016. Teryoshin spent 8 years traveling to defense shows around the world, capturing the surreal and sickening ways weapons of destruction are bought and sold. This photo is one of many now featured in his newly published photo book, Nothing Personal, The Back Office of War.
I'm especially struck by the contrast, the juxtaposition between the saturated color of the woman's dress, very cheerful floral design, and the kind of white and gray weaponry being displayed alongside this buffet. We also get a bit of the kind of femininity contrasting with masculinity there, not only with the man at the right contrasting with the woman, but again, the idea of the brightly colored woman and these very phallic looking weapons that are being sold in this place. The food she's putting on her plate looks like little explosions of bombs.
I loved all of these visual quirks, the way the fancy toothpicks jut out of the canopies in tandem with the gun turret, equating war and destruction with finger food, or the way the woman's arms mirror the turret, and the photo of the turret above that, which offers this very odd and cynical pairing of arms. The floral address and kind of the allusion to nature. And then not just explosions when you look at the canopies, which they really do feel like that, but also the ones on the far right in particular look like lines of marching soldiers.
I also think it's really interesting that the photographer chose not to picture actual faces. There are lots and lots of people in these images, but the choice to not picture faces, I think, it was really implying that this is all really more about the system and this larger infrastructure of selling war that's being critiqued here rather than any individual people or even any individual nation. People appear just in these surreal moments. So, for example, there's a guy in a fancy business suit lying on the floor underneath the wheel of a giant military machine, almost as if he's going to be crushed by it. There's this kind of series of visual jokes in a lot of these images that I find really interesting. So images where people are kind of melding into the machines. So there's a kind of visual humor at play here, but it's also a really pointed critique of how man and machine are almost one in these settings.
You can see the disconnect in that photo of the display weapon next to this large aluminum target with a 2 millimeter thick puncture. Talk about the fetishization of violence. This looks like a piece of sculpture at a high-end art gallery. When you talk about surreal, the other thing that also jumps out at me from this kind of lush and very extravagant display is just the money element and, the whole profit side of weaponry. You got to be scoring a lot of cash to be making displays like this and having shows like this. In that regard, this photo also reminds me of photographs taken surreptitiously of the rich, often at lavish social events. This also informs us that the photo is as much about wealth and power and how war is not just good, but great business.